We start this hour in Britain, where the group of 7 leaders have wrapped up 3 days of talks. The leaders of the major developed countries discussed a wide range of issues at their first in-person summit for nearly 2 years. The British Prime Minister announced they'd agreed to provide vaccines to tackle the coronavirus pandemic.
I'm very pleased to announce that this weekend leaders have pledged over 1 billion doses, either directly or through funding to COVAX. That includes 100 million from the UK to the world's.
The challenges posed by global warming were the focus of the final day. The UK will also host the COP26 summit in November.
Every one of the G7 countries has pledged to wipe out our contributions to climate change. We need to make sure we're achieving that as fast as we can and helping developing countries at the same time.
Another key issue for the summit was China's increasing global influence. The G7 leaders said in their communiqué that they underscore the importance of peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and encourage the peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues. They also said they remain seriously concerned about the situation in the East and South China Seas and strongly oppose any unilateral attempts to change the status quo and increase tensions. The leaders agreed on a new global infrastructure initiative for low- and middle-income countries to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative. The White House says the G7 and other like-minded partners will help infrastructure development in Latin America, Africa, the Indo-Pacific and other regions in a transparent, sustainable and environment-friendly manner. People from Myanmar have held rallies around the world to urge the G7 leaders to take action against the military junta. Rallies were staged in 21 countries at the weekend to coincide with the G7 summit in Britain. In Tokyo, over 1,000 protesters, mainly young people from Myanmar, gathered on Sunday in front of the United Nations University. They condemned the military violence.
The younger generation cannot accept what is happening in Myanmar. We want the international community to take action against the military.
Several hundred people from Myanmar took part in a protest on Saturday in the port town of Falmouth, where the G7 International Media Centre is located. The crackdown on civilians in Myanmar shows no signs of ending. A human rights group says more than 860 people have been killed. Myanmar's military has accused armed ethnic groups of training civilians who have been protesting since the coup on February 1st, and it suggests it could take countermeasures.
People trained in the use of explosives have been destroying schools and public buildings.
The military says authorities have identified at least 3 armed groups that are training what it calls terrorists. It says that information came from people who've been detained. There are about 20 armed ethnic groups in Myanmar. There are concerns that the military could step up airstrikes in areas where they think these groups are training civilians. Pro-democracy forces announced last month that they'd created the People's Defence Force to protect civilians from the military crackdown. Major Japanese carrier All Nippon Airways has begun vaccinating its employees against the coronavirus. It's believed to be the first company in Japan to deliver shots at the workplace. 50 pilots and cabin crew for international flights got their jabs on Sunday at Haneda Airport in Tokyo. They had their body temperature checked before entering the inoculation site. Medical staff asked about their health status before proceeding. Pilots have to wait at least 2 days before their next assignment. Cabin attendants need to wait at least a day.
Getting a vaccination allows me to work with peace of mind. I want our customers to feel at ease when they take off flights.
ANA officials say they began their program ahead of schedule. That's because they managed to secure enough medical workers and doses. They say they plan to increase the number of vaccination sites. They aim to offer shots to over 46,000 workers, including group company employees and contractors. Officials in Tokyo reported 304 new coronavirus cases on Sunday. That's down 47 from a week earlier. But there are concerns about the increased flow of people in some busy areas around the country. The mayor of Moscow has announced 5 non-work days this month to tackle a resurgence of coronavirus cases. The Russian capital has the highest number of cases in the country. Most workplaces will close from the 15th to the 19th as a result. Mayor Sergei Sobyanin announced the emergency measure on Saturday. He said the activities of tourists and residents have been picking up as the summer gets underway. Most companies will have to provide 5 paid non-work days starting Tuesday. Restaurants and bars have to close by 11 p.m. for 9 days through June 20th. Infection rates in Russia had been declining since the end of last year, but they began rising again this month. The daily tally of new infections topped 13,000 on Saturday for the first time in 4 months. The government has approved 4 coronavirus vaccines, but the country's inoculation rate is only around 12%, partly due to concerns about vaccine safety. Moscow's mayor is urging residents to get vaccinated during the non-work break. The government of Saudi Arabia says the annual Muslim pilgrimage, or Hajj, will be restricted to its own citizens and residents for the 2nd year amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The Saudi government announced Saturday that this year's Hajj will be limited to no more than 60,000 people from within the kingdom. It also says only those who've been vaccinated will be able to take part when it starts next month. The kingdom says they've considered the country's situation, where variants of the virus have been confirmed. The pilgrimage usually gives Saudi Arabia the chance to earn foreign currency, as it typically draws more than 2 million Muslims from across the globe. An openly transgender weightlifter from New Zealand has qualified for the Tokyo Games in a first for the Olympics. Laurel Hubbard is ranked 7th in the women's over 87 kilogram category. Hubbard came out as transgender and underwent sex reassignment surgery in 2013. The International Olympic Committee issued guidelines on allowing transgender athletes in 2015. They state that women's events are open to athletes whose testosterone is below a certain level for at least 12 months. And those were the main stories for this hour.
The G7 meeting of world leaders has ended in Cornwall. The summit has made a big promise on COVID vaccinations, saying it'll fund 1 billion jabs for the developing world. President Biden has been promoting plans for a Western alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative, but Beijing's warned G7 leaders that the days when a small group of countries decided the fate of the world are long gone. Is this the end of an era in Israeli politics? Benjamin Netanyahu's 12-year stint as Prime Minister is expected to be ended by a vote in the Israeli parliament. And players and fans send messages of support to the Danish footballer Christian Eriksen. His coach confirms he did suffer a cardiac arrest on the pitch in the match against Finland.